Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia's early years. Georgia O'Keeffe is well known for her contribution to modern art. She was born November 15, 1887, into a big family. She grew up on a farm in Wisconsin alongside her 6 siblings. At a young age, she received art lessons and was noticed quickly by her teachers and peers of her talents. By the end of her time in high school, she full-heartedly knew that she wanted to become an artist. She studied at the Art Institute of Chicago and the Art Students League of New York, where she learned everything there was to know about art. At both art schools, she learned more traditional work. It wasn't until a few years later she developed her own artistic style. Learning new styles. She began to study the revolutionary ways of Arthur Wesley Dow. His focus was on a more abstract style of painting, as seen below, that highly influenced her style. She loved the abstract qualities of his work that brought ordinary things like nature to life. Her first big break. She loved this new and different style of painting that had not been previously focused on in her art schools. Georgia began to teach art for a few years in Texas, where she started to really experiment with abstract work. Starting with abstract charcoal paintings, she slowly began to find her personal style. She then showed one of her friends her drawings, who showed them to a well-known art dealer, Stieglitz. Her work was then displayed at the Alfred Stieglitz Avant-Garde Gallery in New York City. He was the first to display her work and later became her husband. This is her first exhibit and some of her charcoal drawings. Quickly growing. After her big breakthrough at Stieglitz Gallery, attention to Georgia grew quickly. The website Georgia O'Keeffe Museum says, by the mid-1920s, O'Keeffe was recognized as one of America's most important and successful artists. Known for her paintings of New York skyscrapers, an essentially American symbol of modernity, as well as her equally radical depiction of flowers. Moving states. Georgia had been living in New York for a while and felt trapped in the hustle and bustle of city life. She needed new places to be able to explore and express her creativity. While traveling, she stumbled upon New Mexico and grew fondly. She then moved to New Mexico, where she enjoyed much of the culture that largely influenced many of her paintings going forward. This included Native American and Hispanic cultures. Georgia was also heavily inspired by New Mexico's Red Mountains landscapes and adobe architecture. She felt that it would reflect beautifully throughout her work. This is a couple images of her work inspired by New Mexico. She said, "It never occurs to me that skulls have anything to do with death. They are very lively. I've enjoyed them very much in relation to the sky." Robertson, 10, quotes from Georgia O'Keeffe. Symbolism. Georgia O'Keeffe showed much symbolism throughout her work. She portrayed nature in a beautiful and powerful way. She often painted flowers, skulls, and landscapes by adding color and her own take. She also enhanced her work with charcoal to add definition to different aspects. Georgia painted many cultural images to express the beauty she found within them. She often painted flowers and is well known for them and their representation of femininity. Georgia painted skulls in the desert to represent their eternal beauty instead of their common representation of death. She used many colors to brighten her work and highlight the way she saw the landscapes around her. Continuing to explore, she began to grow a love for different landscaping scenes and began to travel the world to depict it through her art. Some amazing places she painted included mountains in Peru, Mount Fuji, and later many aerial views. Her artistic development started here. This is one of Georgia O'Keeffe's first charcoal drawings. As you can see, there was a lack of color as well as an understanding of the image. She was much more abstract in her early paintings as she studied Arthur Wesley Dow. She experimented with different techniques and components that he used, and she applied them to her work. This is her progress as she went on. Georgia moved to New Mexico and begins to explore modernism and natural elements. Her work is much more recognizable. We can see that a skull is depicted in this piece. She is starting to form patterns in her work, such as a flower, often painted alone, but in this piece is complemented by a skull. This is a third part to her artistic development. With time, she begins to create her own technique. She combines abstract forms through nature, but in a way that the viewer is still able to recognize what the image depicts. Each form in her painting is defined and full of more shapes. Reflecting. Throughout time, she began to develop her artistic style. She started with a very basic style taught in school and studied others' work to be able to form her own style. She loved to paint nature in her own beautiful way. She once said, "I had to create an equivalent for what I felt about what I was looking at, not copy it." Sadly, her vision quickly deteriorated, and in 1972 she painted her last unassisted oil painting. She later died in 1986 at age 98. In 1997 to 2004, her painting was even displayed in the White House. It was displayed in the green room of the White House. It was then relocated to the library of the White House after. And this is the works cited page. Thank you.